Welcome to the episode of Times Square Kung Fu. I am your host, Frankie Balboa, aka the Shogun Supreme.
And I'm Peter Glagowski, Associate Editor over at Flixus.com. Today we're going to be talking about Eureka's brand new 4K release of King Hu's The Valiant Ones, which releases on June 11th in the United States.
And it's already out in the UK. Those lucky bastards had it early. You know what I mean? But bless everyone. But seriously, we have to give a shout out to MVD Entertainment Group for providing us a review copy for the sake of this video. We're going to put a link in the description to pre-order. And Peter cannot wait to say what he has to say because in case you guys do not know, Peter has a YouTube channel as well besides doing films with, the one and only Frankie Balboa. Let him know, Peter.
Yeah, I keep forgetting to plug it, but I've recently launched my gaming-focused channel, Kill All Games, on YouTube, and I've been doing reviews on almost a weekly basis, as well as some retrospectives, and I hope to get into interviews with indie developers.
Yeah, and in case you guys, forgot or are new to the channel, Peter has been a long-time journalist in the video game industry, so he knows this stuff. Besides, covering some awesome boomer shooters, where my Steam account is blowing up on the wish list, man. But yeah, with that said, man, we're about to get this amazing video about the Valiant Ones. Let's get into it. One thing I like looking about this, looking at these old films from this period of time, especially old wuxia films, is you see a lot of notable, recognizable faces looking very, very young.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one point that we noticed Corey Yun in the film and Yun Bao. Yun Bao was the one that was most recognizable.
Yeah, and then Wu Ping's father, even though he's not young.
Yeah, that was the one. But you see all these cameos towards the end of the film, and you even see Roy Chiao, the one that played the father, Mr. Tanaka in Bloodsport, and the judge in Righting Wrongs. And
he was Bruce Lee's teacher in Enter the Dragon.
Yeah, so you see a lot of familiar faces in the film, but he looks the same. No matter what they keep.
It's always looked the same, yeah.
Yeah, he always looked the same. So that was a great treat about this film, and anybody who just got into the genre a few years ago, or been watching it for a while and seeing this restoration, seeing it this crisp, clean, because it looked fantastic. The color grade, the HDR, because the one and only Mr. David Mackenzie himself, Fidelity Emotion, did the authoring of the disc. But yeah, it was definitely a joy for me to see all these faces, man. But the story was quite interesting in this movie. Let it know, Peter.
The Valiant Ones is basically this. Facing threats from Japanese pirates along China's southern coast, the Emperor dispatches an officer and a small band of men to deal with Japanese pirates. And, I mean, that's it. King Hu has never been one to have overly detailed stories, although they sometimes get convoluted. A lot of his storytelling works in cinematography, and from that angle, Valiant Ones is great. A lot of these shots are super impressive for 1975, and there's a whole sequence where they're on the boat, and it's just like a follow shot, and you see the Taiwanese coastline. It's great. But otherwise, I kind of think like the first 40 minutes could just be condensed into 5.
Yeah, this film is definitely, I'll let you guys know straight up, you're not gonna get intense action right away. It's basically, it looks dated the first 40 minutes. And we explained how it transitioned in the last 35 minutes or so of the film. But yeah, the majority of the film is Lord of the Rings. Slow burn.
Yeah, it is a slow burn, and at times you're just like, what the hell is going on? Because the plot is very much, oh no, pirates are attacking, and then that takes over for like 20 minutes, and it's just...
And you mentioned, pirates are attacking, and what carries the fight scenes, we're going back to the cinematography and the way the camera is done. But my biggest beef with the film, and I told you this, it's like the innovability towards the characters in this film. These individuals are like, how can I explain it? They're like, there's no apprehension of threat throughout the whole film. Oh, we're that good. Oh, 100 Japanese soldiers throwing arrows. These guys are really, really playing chess, eating some freaking chicken. Oh, arrows. They're grabbing them, tossing them like nothing. It's like all of them are the final boss
Yeah.
in a freaking Elden Ring game. Like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, there's that scene I was saying where Roy Chow just like grabs the air. I was like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, the old like, and also there's something that that I mentioned, the lack of depth, the depth of the character.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of is an issue with old literature from any country, not China specifically, in that no one truly knew how to write characters per se, or they were trying to elevate them to a mythological status.
That's the thing. But even mythological status, other films, at least they gave me some meat to the characters.
Yeah, there's not a lot. There's one point where you were like, I want some of that Chinese bullshit with philosophy, and then, it happened in that one scene, but otherwise...
But yeah, it lacked the oomph, because he was trying to train the flute guy, who was like the scout for the crew, where he plays his flute all the time. Yeah, so he was trying to teach him how to use the sword and how to, go about it, but it didn't feel like impactful at all. It's basically you open a nice cold can of Coke and it's flat. I'm being real with you guys. You know what I'm saying? It just felt very flat.
Oh, wow.
Because there was a situation in the beginning of the film where they had the Japanese soldiers trapped, but their bait was to let them go. And we get it, they were baiting them to come back. But again, like I mentioned earlier, the sense of threat wasn't there because you knew it was already been established, like they're God tier. They were in God mode. They really didn't get touched, except for one general that came by out of nowhere.
Yeah, and then he screwed their plans up, which is essentially what the rest of the movie is, them trying to recover from that.
Besides that, like the cover shows Sammo Hung and some of the actors we mentioned, like they show up, like the last 35 minutes of the film. It's a very dramatic change. Everything changes, like holy moly.
Yeah, it's a lot more intense. The choreography it's early Sammo Hung, so it's still a little goofy, but it's definitely much better.
No, like the cinematography, the choreography is a lot more engaging, entertaining. It's a thrilling spectacle. We were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I didn't get to this part sooner. And even because the contest before when they finally show Sammo Hung.
Yeah.
And everybody that we mentioned earlier, even that felt like the atmosphere felt more tense than what we felt throughout the whole film.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the side plots was that they're trying to infiltrate the Japanese to take them out from within. In some way, I kind of figured that should have been the start of the movie. I'm not trying to direct the movie here, but the beginning doesn't seem to capitalize on its premise well, and then from the second act onward, it starts to get more engaging until you get to the final act, and Sammo Hung gets to take over as action choreographer, and it's just a lot more engaging.
But one thing is, like, don't think that we're dogging on the film. We're letting people know to keep your expectations in check if you've never seen a King Hu film.
Yeah, it's pretty typical of King Hu's output, and while I do think something like Touch of Zen is much better, a lot of it's just that you have to keep your expectations in check, because I grew up more with later Shaw, Lau Kar-leung stuff, and then Sammo Hung's 80s output. So to me, I like faster, snappier choreography instead of the more operatic stuff that's on display here.
Yeah, and you're gonna see that. I mean, I've seen some old stuff, like I show you, this long freaking title when I show you the Shaw Brothers film, Confession of a Chinese Poison.
Yeah. That's a really good movie.
Yeah. So it's just the way, the way he put it, because these characters are so like, top tier, like we say in a fighting game.
They're all Lu Bu, essentially.
Yeah, like it's a dragon freaking warrior. I mean, well, I said dragon warriors, but like Dynasty Warrior game. It's like, I kept saying, the Japanese soldiers are bots. But after I finished watching the film, I appreciate the way this film was directed and composed, because believe it or not, you're going on a journey and you feel like you're going on a journey. Because truth be told, some of these preparing for battle and all that stuff is not might be dramatic as literature makes it seem, or certain films. It felt very grounded. Like I felt I was in this world. As if you're gonna get a sense of adventure, and very immersive because the way he knows how to shoot a film.
Yeah, King Hu is definitely a very good visual director.
Definite. But I really, really did enjoy the last 35 minutes. I'm not a huge fan of the way the film started, but it was worth it, especially as Peter freaking approved. And I'm not gonna say why, but you guys will find out why, because if you don't follow Peter on Letterboxd, you're gonna know what I mean when I said that, man. But with that said, Peter, do you recommend this film for film fans in general, period?
A lot of people who are not into martial arts films might actually appreciate this more, because with King Hu's direction and cinematography and all that, it is at least like higher production value than a typical Shaw Brothers film in that sense. And yeah, this current release, it has a great commentary by Frank Zhang. There's a ton of good extras. It looks great. So, you know, if you've never seen the movie and you want to see it in the best possible light, absolutely get this Eureka one. There's a standard Blu-ray too if you don't have a 4K set.
Right. Me personally, like, if I would have owned this film previously, I would have been fine with the DVD or, you know, of the film, because it's not my cup of tea and stuff like that. But I do say that I highly recommend checking it out, because it's something to marvel when you watch it. It might resonate differently with you than it did with me, because it definitely is a piece of cinema history, and it's a tech demo as well, because it looks like something out of National Geographic, the way this film is shot.
It's a look at Taiwan in the mid-70s, and for that alone, you know, it has some historical value.
Definitely. So remember, this comes out June 11th. You can pre-order at MVD Entertainment Group, and it's already out in the UK. Those guys been doing backflips over it. And, you know, as always, like, share, and subscribe. And until the next one.